One of the things that you see along with Brexit is this kind of revolutionary spirit and this desire to just kind of break up or smash institutions. And you also see this is is it your role to depolarize society, or is it your role if you don't have some kind of mass media, then the democracy is not possible. So, I think, by the way,
the president is refusing to accept the result. How far do you think President Trump is going to take this attempt to contest an increasingly clear-cut result? And at which point, if any, do you think that major Republicans are going to break with him?
So to be clear, this questioning of the result is not because he's a sore loser or he's having a temper tantrum. This is a long-term strategy that you could see him beginning to roll out before the election. Before the election, Trump was already casting doubt on absentee ballots, which he knew there would be a large number of this year. And he also knew that we're more likely to be Democratic than Republican, just because Democrats are more likely to be concerned about the virus, and also because he was telling his followers not to vote by mail. So we knew he was going to do this. Even in a couple of states, there were decisions taken about the counting of the ballots to make sure that the absentee ballots would be counted later. This was particularly true in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So this was a planned effort to undermine the results in those states. I think the big idea was maybe he could use that kind of hysteria and, in order to question the results so much that he could get them, questioned and somehow changed. I don't think that's going to work. But what we're watching now instead is Trump's long-term strategy, which is to feed the idea that the election was somehow stolen, and to benefit from the grievance and unhappiness of a part of the public. Remember that Trump first came into politics as the advocate of the birther theory. This was the conspiracy theory that Barack Obama was born outside the United States and was therefore an illegitimate president. And so questioning the president's legitimacy, which he did successfully and the Republican Party did successfully, is a strategy they've used before. So they will use this to question Biden, to try and make his presidency fail. Trump may use it personally. He may use his followers to make money, to sell them things. He might use them as support for when he faces the inevitable legal and other financial issues that he's about to face. So this is a clear-cut strategy. Even if he's forced to make some kind of confession, even if he leaves the White House, which he will maintain this idea that there was something wrong with the election because it gives him a base of support.
Is there a point at which significant Republicans, Mitch McConnell, people like that, are going to more publicly break with his attempt to sort of throw a cloud over the result?
So I think some of them are going to find it useful to go on maintaining that there was something wrong with the election. And I mean, there's a newly elected senator from Alabama who's tweeting about it, Marco Rubio in Florida. I mean, there are a number of senators who also see that their base is these grievance voters, voters who don't believe in democracy, they don't believe in the American political system, they don't trust the media, and they're willing to believe that the election was stolen. So those senators who feel like this is a big part of their base will go on doing that perhaps for quite a long time. I mean, it's worth noting that President George W. Bush, has already acknowledged the vote and congratulated Biden. Mitt Romney has done that. A few other leading Republicans are bidding to do it. I mean, at some point, you're right, they will have to pivot and begin to work with Biden. But even so, they may encourage this feeling of grievance in their followers for a long time.
What does it say about the prospect of reconciliation and of people working together in American politics that, the losing side in both 2016 and 2020 are unwilling to accept that they lost in a straight contest?
So I don't think that's quite fair. In 2016, Hillary Clinton did concede immediately, and she made a concession speech right away. And there was never any effort to show that there was something wrong with the electoral system, or the count was wrong, or something like that. In other words, there was no questioning of the result in that sense. I mean, there was great concern about the Russian intervention in the election, which was not fictional. There was real Russian intervention. It was proven by the Mueller report. We know we know about Russian intervention in American social media, and also the Russian hacking of the Democratic National Committee. All these things are, there were investigations of that which were legitimate. So this is not parallel situations. But you do ask an important question, which is it possible for political parties to work together who don't perceive one, neither perceives the other? Well, it's not quite fair. Certainly the Republicans don't perceive the Democrats as legitimate, and the Democrats now treat the Republicans with suspicion of bad faith. So yes, that does make politics difficult. I mean, this is why. This is exactly why this form of authoritarian populism is so dangerous, because it acts like only one party is right, and only one party has the right to rule, and everybody else are traitors or elites or foreigners and so on. And this is why the Republican Party's rhetoric, not just over the last 4 years, but over the last 10 years, has been so dangerous.
And to what extent, thinking specifically about the European scene, do you think that Trump's loss will help break the populist fever here? To what extent did he embolden populist leaders like the Orbáns and the Kaczynskis of the world?
Well, certainly it's been very amusing. I'm in Poland right now, and it has been actually quite funny to watch how the Kaczynski state television, because we have a very partisan state television here, kind of, swung back and forth. And at first, because they follow the American far right media, they believed the stories that the election was stolen, and they were very reluctant to call the election. And as they suddenly realized that it was going the other way, they, immediately flipped over. But it puts both Orbán and Kaczynski in a difficult position because, but particularly Kaczynski, because he's made so much of his foreign policy has been focused on the United States. This argument that we have the United States, so we don't need Europe. And I think it damages both of them. I mean, it makes them both look more lonely and more excluded, frankly, from the rest of Europe. I do also think that the loss of Trump will have these things are very hard to quantify, but it will have a kind of downer effect on the populist right in other places, whether it's Germany or Spain or France. It's also had a, very disconcerting effect on the Brexiteers in Britain, who had been arguing that, they were going to leave the EU and then they were going to have this great relationship with the United States. Well, guess what? Biden is an Irish American. He's very concerned about the Good Friday Agreement and about the unity of the island of Ireland, and he's not going to be very sympathetic to the British government's attempts to break the agreements that have already been made with the EU. And so that suddenly makes that situation look a little bit different too.
An Applbaum, thank you very much.
Thank you.